I was walking home from work at Tim Hortons since I was relatively close and I hated driving at night. The way back was tedious on foot, but I made sure to find shortcuts to avoid wasting time. The main road on my neighborhood was quite busy, but the fact that there was no sidewalk on this well-maintained road was a joke. This meant that walking along the road was quite risky at night, considering the large amount of traffic feeding in. A few weeks ago, I found a gravel path making its way through the foliage beside the road to a kids' park near the entrance of my neighborhood. The park was never occupied at this time of day, or any, for that matter, due to its old, unkept appearance. Today, that changed. As I passed through the trail to the kids' park, I noticed a rusty swing in use. Although it was hard to tell who was using it, I approached closer and realized that the person on the swing was barely swinging at all. It was moving an inch forward and backward. As the person was basically keeping still, I couldn't make out their facial features, but it soon became clear to me that this was no child. It was a fully grown man. He seemed to be wearing baggy clothing and a mask. I walked up to about 20 meters from the park when I saw it. The man was wearing a clown suit. "Hello?" I confusedly asked. There was no response. I walked up to the swing set and got a closer look. No wonder there was no response. It was a mannequin in a clown suit in a sitting position on the swings. It was beyond me how it got there, or who placed it there, but I continued home nonetheless. My house was relatively modern, but I got it for a cheap price because the neighborhood was laughable. The roads hadn't been paved in a decade. No lawns were maintained, and many other homes on the block were in dire need of renovation like my renovated house. I located my home and entered using my key. Today was a busy shift, as it was a Monday, and several people wanted to start their week with a coffee and bagel. Extremely tired, I headed straight for my bed and tucked myself into my comfortable sheets. I was home alone and had been since I moved in, which is probably why when I dozed off, I dreamt about parties, magicians, dancers, presents, and cake that night. These dreams were cut short though. I awoke to an aggressive series of knocks at my front door. Immediately I checked my bedside clock and the numbers 3:18 glared back at me in bright red. My mind raced to consider several possibilities. There were none. Who is at my front door at 3 a.m. in the morning? Knock, knock, knock. I sat up straight. Was this a prank? This person isn't going to stop bothering me, are they? Annoyed, I lazily got out of bed and put on a shirt. I slipped on a pair of slides and made my way downstairs. Suddenly, as I was walking down the staircase, I felt an air of unease about the situation. This could potentially be dangerous. So before heading to the door, I went to the living room and equipped myself with my trusty pistol hidden in a secret compartment within my coffee table. It was already loaded, and I proceeded towards the door. Slightly nervous, I unlocked the door and swung it open. Facing me was the clown mannequin. I didn't even move for a solid 5 seconds in pure shock, before I angrily started craning my neck around my front yard to see who had played this prank on me at this hour. I scanned the surrounding area in more depth, but to no avail. The mannequin in front of me was still as a rock and was staring right at me. I was frustrated that I let some prankster get the better of me and run off. So I slammed the door in the clown's face and decided to deal with it when I got up for work. Sleeping soundly, I drifted off into more obscure, faded dreams this time. I was somewhere, with someone, enjoying a laugh. Perhaps I had just seen something hilarious. It occurred to me that I wasn't the only one laughing, and this continued for an unusual long amount of time. The laughing became intense, and it felt like this dream wasn't funny anymore. Soon, the sound was horrible. It was wheezing, insane laughter that was definitely not coming out of me. I woke up in a cold sweat, squirming around the uncomfortable pool around me in my bed. But the laughing continued. Perplexed, I rubbed my eyes and pinched myself. This was all but reality. I sat up and listened carefully to the sound. It was coming from outside. My window was half open, and I immediately regretted the decision to leave it that way before I slept. Someone or something was out there. It was that guy, wasn't it? I quickly picked up my pistol that I brought upstairs and cocked it back. In a swift motion, I aimed it outside and downwards, onto the ground. But what I saw will continue to plague my nightmares. It was the same clown mannequin, standing perfectly still. The mask was made to a grin, and its head had been tilted to face directly up at my window. The laughter had ceased, but I filled with rage. In sheer fury, I screamed at the top of my lungs. "Who's there?" That was loud. Really loud. I waited a few seconds to see if any neighboring lights turned on. If I had disturbed somebody in their slumber. Nothing. Returning to my previous annoyed state, I glanced around the area trying to spot whoever was playing this sick joke on me. Everything seemed normal. Nothing was out of place, and there was nowhere someone could have hidden down there. I would have closed the window, this time fully, and gone back to bed had it not been for the gut-wrenching sound of the same exact laughter. I turned around to face out the window, and, of course, the clown had departed. What a night, I thought, as I let out a sigh of despair. Not taking any chances, I went downstairs to make sure all the doors were locked and that all the windows in the house were locked as well. I couldn't sleep tonight, as I was either going insane or I had just been a victim of the creepiest prank ever. I waited an hour and a half for something else to happen, but nothing did. I noticed I was becoming very tired, as I had worked a full shift and my sleep was interrupted twice by a mannequin in a clown suit. I was angry. I told myself if I saw the person behind this, I would either call the cops immediately or deal with them myself using my pistol. I dug my head into my pillow and screamed until I calmed down, relaxed, and eventually passed out. The morning came, and for that, I was grateful. Sunlight poured into the room and illuminated every corner of it. Something was off though. The sunlight was dark crimson. This was my room, but it didn't seem like it at all. Yep, another dream. I was not looking through my own eyes, but rather the eyes of something else in my room. In fact, I was staring directly at myself. I was sound asleep in my dream too. I just stood there, unmoving, concentrating on the lump in the bed that I was. Time seemed to stand still. Perhaps time didn't progress right now. Whatever or whenever now was. The crimson in the room was perpetual, and so was everything else. Until I started to notice something new. Laughter. I woke up, properly this time, and noticed I was breathing heavily. I've done this before, I thought. My heart was racing though. and I could not wrap my mind around the dream I just experienced. I had heard the sick laughter before waking up, and evidently was delivering further into the depths of insanity now. All that changed when I sat up in my bed. The thing was right there. It was standing directly in front of my bed. This was no dream, and I was not insane. I screamed, probably louder than I ever have, jumped out of my bed, and tackled the mannequin. It fell easily, as should most pieces of plastic. I was in a craze and lunged for my pistol on the nightstand. I shot at the thing, then shot again. I shot a few more times for good measure, then threw the gun at it after it was out. My breath was even heavier, and I stared blankly at the mannequin I just shot at several times. What just happened? The situation was absurd. There was a clown mannequin in my room. I slightly chuckled in triumph. I had defeated the mannequin. I doubled over and broke into hysterical laughter. My name is Chris. I am 76 at the time of writing this, but the events of this story took place at least 20 years ago when I was 55 or 56. It was around 22:10 when a call came through from a strange, sketchy side of town. Calls from this side of town were pretty common, but I had always hated driving out that way. I reluctantly started making my way toward the address I'd been given. I found myself parked in front of a densely wooded area. I didn't see a house, nor did I see a path that suggested there would have been one. It was dark, and I'll admit that I'm a bit of a pussy at times. I wasn't prepared to go into the woods alone, and so I just drove off. Nobody would know, right? The next day, at around 22:10, an almost identical call from the same exact location came through. And yet again, I had to go out there. I was annoyed. I was positive whoever was doing this was pulling some kind of sick joke. I arrived at the same woods, but this time stepped out of my car with a flashlight in hand and walked over to the tree line. I didn't see anything. I still wasn't comfortable venturing into the woods alone, and so I quickly turned and went back to my car. I hadn't even started the car when I heard a sudden loud pop from my back tire. I froze. I had been working as a cop of 26 years, and I had never heard such a sound coming from my car. I didn't want to stick around to find out who, or rather what, had popped that tire. I hit the gas and got out of there as fast as I could. The entire drive back was filled with horrid screeching of my back two tires, and the drive was bumpy. The next day, after getting my tires fixed, I returned to work. I had barely slept last night, and I was exhausted. It was growing nearer and nearer to 22:10. Although luckily for me, my partner John was back at work, and so I wouldn't be experiencing that horror alone. Sure enough, dispatch called and informed us there'd been a call for help from those woods. I drove us there, and the two of us stepped out of the car and walked towards the woods. As I expected, we didn't see anything. But with John by my side, I'd gathered the courage to go into the woods and have a look around. As we walked through the woods, our nostrils were attacked by a stench I recognized to be that of a dead body. "What's that smell?" John asked. I frowned. "That's the smell of decay. You're a cop. You should know these things," I replied, shaking my head. He looked back. "Where's it coming from?" he said. I sighed. "I don't know. It's probably roadkill. We're right next to the road, and we're standing in the woods." I said. He agreed, and we pushed forward. Eventually, we found where the smell was really coming from. It was so strong, it made my eyes water. There in the woods stood an abandoned house. The once white paint had faded to a dirty yellow and started to peel. We entered the house. Everything was covered in cobwebs. I picked up a mobile phone off the ground. It had 62% battery. That seemed odd to me. This place looked like it had been abandoned since the 1800s, but a modern-day mobile phone lay on the ground. If that phone had been here for years, it probably wouldn't have turned on at all. We searched the house. I scanned the kitchen and the bathroom. John scanned the upstairs bedrooms and the sitting room. John made his way down into the basement first, and that's when I heard his screams and the gunshots. I rushed to see what was happening. I made my way down the basement steps, the smell growing worse and worse with each step I took. Then I saw it. The creature was spider-like in appearance, with ash gray skin, 8 beady black eyes, and instead of fangs or even a mouth, there was just a row of razor-sharp teeth. I was horrified, but what was even worse was the piles upon piles of dead human bodies. They had been ripped apart and the organs had been pulled out. They were like hollow shells. I was disgusted. Just as I turned to leave, my eyes landed on the pink, fleshy mess on the corner of the room behind the creature. Eggs. I ran up the stairs and out of the house. I rushed to my car and drove off. I wish I'd been able to save John, but the kid was as good as dead when I found him. You read the title right. My parents treated me like a hallucination. A hallucination of my younger sister, to be precise. In fact, they never acknowledged me at all. You see, they didn't believe in indulging my sister in her hallucinations. They thought it was a sign of demons and should be cast out. Anytime my sister acknowledged me, my parents would yell at her, and she'd yell right back. Then they would go and pray to God, asking him to get rid of me, like I was some kind of pest. As we both grew older, my sister acknowledged me less and less. I can't blame her though. All the gaslighting from our parents and the priests they took her to, so they could help her in her battle with demons, must have been terrible for her. I got out when I was 17. I stole some money from my parents and walked right out the door. I guess you could say I moved out, though I never felt like the place I grew up in was my home. Please don't worry about me. I'm fine now, I think. I've gone to therapy. I found supportive people to help me through the whole thing, and overall, my life is better now. But I'm not posting here to tell you about my childhood. I'm posting here to tell you about something much worse. Yesterday, as I was getting groceries, I saw my mother walk down the street. She looked casual, normal, almost as if she hadn't refused to give her daughters a normal childhood. I tried to keep my eyes off of her, but I couldn't. This was the woman that had ruined my childhood. I didn't know what I was meant to do. Ignore her, flip her off, scream at her, punch her. She saw me. Demon. She ran up to me and shoved me away from her. I stumbled back and fell down. Demon, demon, go away, out. Stop tormenting me, stop. I didn't know what to say. I just quietly listened to her rambling and watched people try to get her away from me. At some point, I think I just shut everything out. "Ma'am?" The voice brought me back to reality. My mother had left. It was quiet. There was no more screaming. "Ma'am, are you okay?" I got up, my knees trembling. I realized that I was drenched in cold sweat. My throat was dry. I had been crying, and I was about to start again. No. Before the person had a chance to answer, I ran. One of my bags had ripped open, but I didn't care. I let my groceries spill all over the sidewalk. I ran home, sank into the couch, and began to sob. Big, ugly sobs that made my throat hurt. It was like all the work I had put into building a new life for myself had suddenly been undone, and I was just a helpless child again, wondering why mommy wouldn't play with me. I felt strong arms wrap around me and stroke my hair, even though there was nobody behind me. Normally, I would have panicked, but today wasn't normal. I leaned into the touch. After all, if this invisible being had decided to comfort me of all people, it had to mean something, right? "You are our child. You will forget about them. You will come with us." The voice whispering in my ear was so soothing that I instantly relaxed. "What?" "She birthed you, yet has not been a mother. Come with us. You will be happy." "Who are you?" "We are your true family. Will you come with us?" I didn't even have to think about what I said next. "I will." I know many of you will judge me for this response, and I honestly don't blame you. But I needed a family more than ever, and it seemed like they were the only family I could ever have, whoever they were. It started getting hard to keep my eyes open. I started feeling drowsy, like I had no energy left in me. "Go to sleep. We'll explain everything." They didn't have to tell me twice. I fell fast asleep before I even realized it. I woke up in a room without any doors or windows, just white walls. It made me anxious, like the walls would close in on me any second. There was nobody else there, but I felt like there was thousands of eyes on me. Eyes that were waiting, their patience about to run out, expecting something of me. "Will you honor the deal?" The booming voice rang through the room. What deal? Images began to flash through my mind. First, the image of a woman who was sick and tired of being shunned for her infertility. A woman desperate to have a child. So desperate that she made a deal with demons. A deal that made her and her descendants carry the demons' children. My great-grandmother. Then, the image of another woman driven mad by the fact that she was a child of a demon. A woman who clung to religion, hoping to cleanse herself of her dark heritage. A woman who still had to carry the demon's child. A woman who broke the cycle 5 years later by having her own child, and heavily neglecting the demon's child. A woman who was punished for this. My mother. Will you? The feeling of being watched was growing more and more intense, gnawing at my stomach. Whoever was watching me, they wanted me to respond. They wanted me to carry the demon's child, and I could feel their patience wearing thinner and thinner. "No," said a confident voice. I looked around the room, trying to see whose it was. It was mine. "You cannot refuse." "But I am." I was startled at the sudden confidence I seemed to be exhibiting. I was sure that I would pay for it later, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to become my mother. Alright. I woke up back on my couch. That was it. I was expecting hellfire, excruciating pain, torture, really, anything but waking up safe and sound. Maybe it was just a dream, just something my broken, traumatized mind made up in order to explain all the abuse. Then I screamed and crumbled to the ground in pain, the worst pain I have ever felt. Like fire was spreading through my insides, tearing every inch of me apart. It got worse with every move I made. It's them. I know it's them. I don't know what else they'll do to persuade me, and frankly, I fear it. But I think I can endure it. No, I will endure it. Because the deal ends now. Country Farm Road has claimed many lives over the years. It is a long, narrow road with many twists and turns. There are many farms near Country Farm Road. Cows and horses tend to escape a lot. It is best to proceed with caution and drive the speed limit. Although this is not the real name for the deadly highway, I have to protect the privacy of its victims. I am also a dispatcher and cannot risk losing my job. It was a slow day for calls. One of the few calls I can remember taking that day was an elderly woman who fell down in her bathroom. I quickly took her information and sent an ambulance out. It was about 30 minutes later when I received the most chilling phone call around 7 p.m. The ones you hate to get. The caller's name was Lisa, and this is the following transcript. 911, what is your emergency? Oh my god, I can't move. My boyfriend, he's beside me, but I can't see him. It's dark. Please help us. What is your name and your location? My name is Lisa Lewis. We are on Country Farm Road on Highway 42, I think. I'm trying to wake up Johnny, but I cannot reach him. I'm stuck in my seatbelt. Help is on the way, Lisa. Is Johnny alert? Can he speak? There was a 5-second pause. No. I keep calling his name, but he's not awake yet. I need to get out of this seatbelt and shake him awake. Lisa, stay calm and please do not move. Help will be there soon. Are you injured? Yes. My leg is hurting. I think it's pinned by the steering wheel. My head is hurting and I just pulled a small piece of glass out. Lisa, don't pull anything out, okay? Let the paramedics get there first to access you. I don't want you to cause any further bleeding, okay? Uh-huh. There was a 10-second pause. Lisa, can you hear me? Are you still awake? I feel dizzy, and I'm trying to get out of the seatbelt. I think I got my leg free. It burns really bad. I need to check on Johnny. Lisa, I know you're worried about Johnny, but I don't want you to move your leg around. It may be broken. Johnny may be knocked unconscious. Please do not get out of your seatbelt. I don't want you to injure yourself any further. There was a loud clicking noise. I got the seatbelt undone. I heard sirens in the distance. Lisa, they are almost there. Hang tight. There was heavy breathing. Lisa, can you hear me? There was a very loud scream with sirens in the background. Oh my god, his head! It just rolled off. It's in my lap. The phone hung up. I felt a sick feeling in my stomach. My job was done, and now the paramedics would take over. About a week later, I was talking to the local sheriff of the town. Apparently when the car veered off, the impact was so hard it sent a huge plate of glass from the windshield right through poor Johnny's neck. This decapitated him instantly. The paramedics arrived on the scene to a very gruesome, sad sight. A 1968 vintage blue Toyota Corolla was tangled up in a mess of trees. The front of the car was mangled. A dead cow was strewn out on the highway in pieces. Shards of glass were all over from the windshield. The firefighters had to use a few tools to open the dented door on Lisa's side. Unfortunately, when they removed the door, they saw that Lisa was passed out cold and her boyfriend's head was resting on her lap. His headless, bloody body was slumped down beside her. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie. We figured Lisa must have reached over to shake Johnny awake. She probably shook him pretty hard. The impact was so hard that a huge plate of glass had gone straight through his neck. It was just balanced enough to keep his head resting upon his body. I couldn't imagine the horror of seeing your boyfriend's head fall into your lap. No wonder why she passed out. I know Lisa survived that accident with a few broken bones and abrasions. Of course, Johnny did not. It was so instant that he probably did not feel a thing. Sadly, Lisa would have to live with the guilt because she was the one who was driving. The car had first belonged to Johnny's dad. He had passed it down to Johnny as his early 16th birthday present, his first car. It takes a lot of inner strength when taking such calls. I'm not going to say it is always easy. You never know what to expect. You are someone's lifeline. About a week later, I was driving down Country Farm Road with my window rolled down. I was taking in the crisp fall breeze. The trees looked beautiful with their changing red and yellow leaves. As I passed the accident site, I saw the back of a woman with long golden brown hair. She was putting blue roses around a white cross that read, "In memory of Johnny." I often wonder if it was Lisa. I have a very disturbing story to tell you. In the past, I had made a hobby of posting deep web mystery box openings on my web channel. I now refuse to ever do them again. Mind you, I know that some of these box openings are faked. I can assure you mine was definitely not. If you don't already know what a mystery box is, I'll clue you in. It is simply a box that you purchase with Bitcoin that someone stuffs with God knows what. You get the pleasure of being creeped out by opening it. You never know what will be inside. That's the beauty of it, if you want to call it that. A few places online have them, but if you play on the dark web, there are no rules. I have received broken dolls, old pictures of family members with fake blood smeared around them, hopefully fake blood, stuffed animals, ripped women's lingerie, medical supplies, tarot cards, a rat skull. Anything scary, silly, or macabre goes. The scary thing is, you don't know who is sending you the box or what's inside, so you better have a damn good pair of gloves. A really thick pair. One time, I made the mistake by reaching my hand into my first mystery box and getting a sticky glue-like substance all over my arm. What a mess. It had leaked out of a bottle. I still don't know what the hell it was, but it didn't have a smell. I washed my hands pretty good after that. Hopefully nothing harmful. I will not reveal the exact website on the dark web I was purchasing my boxes from. but they had been taken down since this incident. I can only reveal that many people were bidding on this one particular box. It had to be good, so I thought. So I took the chance, hoping to get something interesting. I was almost outbidded by one user, but I fought to the finish. This baby was officially mine. Yes, I exclaimed as I verified my address, feeling satisfied. I only used my post office box for safety reasons. Rule number 1: never ever use your home address. It's not safe. There are crazy people out there. It took at least 3 weeks for the box to arrive, and I was super stoked to pick it up. It was a medium-sized, normal-looking cardboard box, sealed tight with packaging tape. Not very heavy, and it felt pretty light. I had hoped I didn't get screwed, but I was curious to why this box had cost so much, and why everyone wanted it. Soon, I would find out. When I arrived home that Friday evening, I set up my webcam and something made me hesitate. I had a weird feeling about this particular box. Maybe my intuition was trying to tell me something. Instead, I ignored it, grabbed my big metal scissors, and set my area up. I always put a garbage bag or sheet down on my kitchen table before unboxing because no telling where the hell the box came from or what might leak out. I slipped on my thicker rubber gloves, observing them for any leak holes. I was good to go. Flipping on the webcam, I began my video. It's time for another unboxing, folks. This is a big one you've been waiting for, and I hope you get a thrill out of this as much as I do. I have been waiting for this box for 3 weeks. It is finally here. It's not very heavy, as you can see. I wonder what's inside. I make sure to shake the box for the camera to show the lightness. I began to cut the tape with my big blue scissors and anticipated what could be inside. I carefully open the cardboard flaps and see shredded newspaper. Little bitty bits of newspaper that someone personally looked to have hand torn into shreds. Riffling through, I dig deeper to the bottom and feel something squishy. I pull it out. It is a squared looking black garbage bag sealed with gray duct tape. Something is wrapped inside, but an odd smell is coming from the garbage bag. A slight rotten odor permeates the air and I gag. I hope this isn't something gross. Obviously it is. I nearly forget I am on camera. I begin to sweat and something makes me very uncomfortable, but I keep going with my video. I pull up on the tape and open the garbage bag carefully, trying to not damage the goods inside. I reveal a big white sealed Ziploc bag with a blue and white looking plaid material inside that looks to be a shirt. I smell the smell again, and this time it's even worse. My natural reflex kicks in and the bag hits the floor. I gag. Yuck. A sweet odorless smell fills my nostrils. You know the kind when a rat dies in the wall and decomposition takes place? The smell lingers for weeks. Sorta like that smell. But this was 10 times worse. I pick up the bag again and force myself to continue. Written on the Ziploc bag in black marker are the words, "Smell of death," in all capital letters. What the hell? I stopped the camera and realized maybe I shouldn't put this on video. If there is something really gross in here or criminal, I don't really need to be putting it on camera for the world to see. In the back of my mind, I've always known the possibility of playing games with strangers. Some can turn out to be psycho. It's a risk you take playing the mystery box game. I quickly hurl the Ziploc bag out the front door. The pattern of throwing the bag around is becoming all too familiar. I spray a can of Lysol spray all over the room, especially on the table, figuring it's just a stupid prank. I sit down for a moment trying to gain my composure and not be a wuss. I think back to the packages I've received over the past months. The glorious mystery boxes. None of them ever smelled like this. Deciding to brave it up, I decided I'll march outside and open the bag. There must be something else in that bag other than the plaid shirt. I think to myself. I mean, I paid a good bit for this box. I go outside and walk up to the bag, holding my breath. I pulled open the seal and shake the shirt out of the bag. It plops to the ground, looking to be badly stained with fluids. Body fluids? Maybe I'm letting my imagination get the best of me. I see what looks like a cassette tape wrapped in clear plastic sticking out of the front pocket. I quickly grab this with my gloves and step back. Way back. The shirt reeks. I gag and almost vomit. I try to keep a long distance between the shirt and I open the plastic wrapped film around the cassette tape. I don't really enjoy touching it, not even with my gloves. Written in the same permanent marker are the words, "My friend." So whoever sent this mystery box must have taken the old-fashioned approach. I go into the garage and find my old boombox with a cassette player, praying it still works. I usually plug it up and listen to the radio while working on projects. I put the tape in. I press play. It makes a silent clicking noise. Hopefully this still works. Suddenly, I hear a crackly man's voice speaking with a slight southern drawl. "I hope you are happy with your mystery box. This was a rare find and I'm so happy I got to share it with you. You see, a homeless man had died in the woods nearby my house. He was in a very desolate place where no one would look for him. I didn't report it. Instead, I became a bit curious. I probably shouldn't have, but oh well. I looked at his body each day. He must have been dead for over 5 days, because I saw the bloody foam coming out of his mouth and nose. He smelled horrible. I think he even might have peed himself. I think that happens when you die. You lose your bodily functions. You want to know what he was wearing? He was wearing a plaid shirt, the one I sent you. He had on some old army-looking pants and had long scraggly hair and a beard. I felt sorry for him, and every day I went out to talk to him. He wasn't dead to me, even though he never talked back. He was stiff to touch. He even looked to be smiling once like he might have heard me. I knew then he and I would be good friends. I told him about my life story of growing up, not having a father, and my stepdad who used to beat me with his belt, all over my body, leaving big giant red welts. I told him about my little brother Mickey who had died a month after he was born. He drowned in the bathtub. Mama blamed me for it and sent me to the home for bad boys. I was just trying to give him a bath. I filled the bathtub and put him in. I was 10 years old. I wanted to hit stop on the cassette tape. Was all of this real? Am I listening to the rambles of a demented madman? I hit play and continued to listen. I went back in the woods many days later, and I saw his body was turning green. I took a few pictures with a Polaroid of my new friend, but did not dare to send them to you. I even took one of us together. I tried to pry open his eyes for the picture, but they were too mushy and it didn't work. I didn't want my observations to be found out. I even brought him a blanket one night because it got real cold. He looked to be getting in worse shape each day, and I knew I had to tell someone, and so I took my friend's shirt. I needed something to remember him by. My special friend. I left and told him goodbye, and thanks for listening to me and being a good friend. A few days later, his body was found by local hunters, and it was all over the news. I loved the way his shirt smelled. I couldn't stop smelling it, so I thought I should share it with somebody. You like the smell, I hope?
Okay, well, I have to go now. Don't feel bad for taking my friend's shirt. I will probably get another one soon. Bye.
I stopped the tape in disgust. It was the most morbid thing I had ever heard. I messaged one of my good friends to come over and check everything out. He was a bit surprised after listening to the tape and gave one of his buddies a call who is a deputy in our little town. The deputy found it very disturbing and didn't think it was a joke. The man on the tape sounded sick. Unfortunately, no action could be taken because it would be impossible to find the exact location the package came from. If I discovered actual human remains in the box, then law enforcement could step in. There was no evidence of a crime committed. The strange thing was the website was taken down not long after this happened. I stopped buying mystery boxes from the deep web after that. It was a very disturbing experience. I started getting them last night. My ex had taken the kids for half the month, and I was home alone. My apartment was dark and quiet, you might say tomb-like. The TV was on, the volume down low. I was missing my kids, missing my ex, and despising myself for it. My phone lit up. I had to carefully remove the bowl of vanilla ice cream swimming in vodka from my stomach, lest it tip over. I saw a number I didn't recognize, so I did the sensible thing and ignored it. Then I got the familiar ding, buzz buzz. One new voicemail. Okay, I thought, I'll bite. The phone number hadn't read scam likely, might even be important. The first time I played it back, I couldn't hear it well, but it sounded like numbers. Put it on speakerphone, cranked up the volume to max. In a crackly drone sounding like voice recording from the 1980s or earlier, somebody read these numbers: 04, 14, 01, 12, 18, 05, 13, 13, 21, 19. That was all the message they'd left. Straight away, I knew it wasn't a phone number. It was too many digits, and they were all spaced out in doubles. I tried to return to my low-effort binge watching at a low volume, half-heartedly piecing together subtitles. Hours later, I couldn't get it out of my head. I won't tell you the actual phone number that called me, because I'd really rather not, but I did give that number a call back. It was a number with my area code. I called it. It rang so much I thought I'd be the one to go to voicemail this time, but then came the click. Except for some murmurs of static, it was quiet on the other end. Hello? I said. Somebody left a message from this number. It was all digits. Not a phone number, just... I don't know what it was. Clearer now, breathing on the other end. Hello? Click again. They'd hung up. Brief, but bothersome. I didn't have much time to let it bother me though, because within 10 minutes, I got a call back from that number. I answered instead of letting it go to voicemail. Whoever it was immediately ended the call. Okay, I thought, that's pretty odd. About another 10 more minutes, another call. I answered again, same treatment. As soon as I said hello, they hung up. I didn't answer the next one because I was using the restroom. That one went to voicemail. I heard the ding, buzz buzz, as soon as I entered my living room again. Hands clammy, I picked up my phone, played it back. I kind of expected another weird series of digits. Instead, what I got was this. Hey, what's the strangest thing you've ever seen at a museum? Went to the Carnival Museum today. You know, the one. I saw a costume that reminded me of you. Got me thinking. Anyway, don't want to talk your ear off. Sherry and the kids send their best. We're doing great, and everyone's happy. Can't wait to see you. It was a man's voice, but one I did not recognize. Carnival Museum? When did I go to Carnival Museum? I try to remember all the parades I'd ever attended, New Orleans and elsewhere. I couldn't recall stopping in at any carnival museums. Must have me confused with someone else. On the other hand, the voicemails and wordless calls wanted to suggest other things. What those were, I wasn't sure. I glanced around my TV flickered but otherwise dark apartment, as a chill worked its way too slowly from foot to head like a bad massage. About another 10 minutes, and I got another call. I let this one go to voicemail. You won't believe what happened today. The same man's voice said, JJ, you know, Joey Jr., fell from a tree and broke some stuff. I told that boy about climbing them trees. But get this, that's not even the most unbelievable part. We didn't need to see a doctor. Just gave him some of that ice cream and he was right as rain. Walking just fine. Now there's a little hitch in his step, but it's the kind of thing that adds character. We played some family games and, for you know it's things, was back to normal. Ah, there I go again. I'm for sure talking your ear off. And I know we'll be seeing each other very soon. We're doing great though, and everyone's happy. This is getting ridiculous, I thought. I tried to pick apart my mind, thinking back on all my old acquaintances. Even if this was someone I knew, there was no way I was planning on meeting or seeing them, as those messages suggested. I called the phone number again, before another rough 10 minutes could transpire. Hey, don't hang up. I don't know you or your family. You've got me confused with someone else. Click. At least I had them on the line for a few rushed sentences. The messages continued. Every rough 10 minutes like clockwork that someone bashed with a hammer. Anytime I picked up and didn't let it go to voicemail, I was rewarded with the call quickly ending. Every message told me some new details of that family's lives. How their daughter Abigail got herself hurt chasing after some cars. How Joey Jr. had tried to eat a cockroach. How Rebecca had to get her wisdom teeth out and it was a messy experience. How they'd all gone shopping for secondhand clothing so fresh, it might have been pulled straight from the backs of others. Even though these messages were spaced out at roughly 10-minute intervals, it seemed he was describing separate days, weeks, months even. Another strange thing was how, about near the end of each voicemail, the man concluded with, "We're doing great and everyone's happy." When it ate into my sleep, I lost every ounce of my patience. Oh, I was scared, but I was also fed up. I gave their number another call. "I don't want to hear how great you are doing," I said, "and how happy you are. Do you hear me? No more voicemails." Heavy breathing on the other end. Sounded like more than one person doing it. "I'll ask your forgiveness for not going about this earlier. I'm kind of an old soul, at least when it comes to things like technology." I put my phone on silent, and I finally got around to searching that phone number that was calling me online. You know, seeing if there was anything about it tied to scammers and stuff like that. I didn't find anything online about scammers, but that number was connected to a company that had locations all over. I'm talking about all over the country. And while I won't tell you the name of it, I will tell you that it had the word happiness in it. There wasn't much information online on the official website or elsewhere. There were some creepy pictures on the official website, oozing happiness in bright monochromes. From the About section, I wasn't sure whether it was supposed to be a pharmaceutical company or some kind of wellness center. While I was doing all that searching, I'd received a bunch of voicemails I hadn't listened to yet. My phone had been on silent. Glancing over from my office chair, I noticed dawn slipping in through the blinds. I raised them and looked out my apartment window. Soft blue, red, and yellow in bands, with the yellow flowing around the trees. It was like a painted uncooked Easter egg that had been broken with the yolk spilling out. Made me think of the last Easter I spent with my family. I'd gotten fussy with my ex about using real eggs this time. She said, "What other eggs are you supposed to paint? They might stink in the sun," I'd said. Somehow or other expletives got flung around. Next thing you know, the kids were crying, throwing their own fits. Next thing you know, Easter egg hunt canceled. Like Hemingway describes bankruptcy, it happened gradually and then suddenly, about like the breakup in our marriage. Weird how a sunrise through some trees can remind a person of things like that. I guess my mind was on family largely from all those voicemails from Joey Sr., Family Man of the Year. I pulled up my desk chair to the window and just stared a while. My phone dinged, buzzed. Pretty soon, I might be receiving voicemails from work. I'd have to shower and get ready. Sleep, and whatever this was, had to wait. One thing I learned from the dissolution of our family unit was that practicalities of life didn't care. Oh, the people involved with those practicalities pretended to care. But when it came to work, if you didn't show, you got replaced. Didn't matter what was going on in your personal life, and who can blame them? It's all a machine. I showered and got dressed for work. As soon as I opened my front door, I saw them. They were past the apartment complex road and parking lots, back past the manicured magnolia and golden rain trees, up under the wilder canopy of blackjacks and pines. A man, a woman, 2 children, holding hands. I couldn't hear them, but I could read their lips. Over and over again, rapidly, they were saying, "We're doing great, and everyone's happy. We're doing great, and everyone's happy." I peered, but couldn't see their faces well above their feverishly working mouths. They wore old clothing garments that belonged in an attic or left hanging at a yard sale. I peered, but didn't dare to step out onto my patio. Cars drove by in the parking lot, clueless to what lurked in the trees. I imagined someone approaching them. I imagined that family jumping out with knives, stabbing and slashing their victim while they chanted over and over, "We're doing great, and everyone's happy." I went inside, locked my door and latched the windows, and got the police on the phone. The person I spoke to became fixated on prank calls and how there wasn't much they could do unless death threats were involved. It's like they completely ignored the part about the family outside my apartment stalking me. So they're happy, huh? Well, that's good. I'd be more concerned if they weren't. They advised me to just block the number, Problem was, I was afraid if I blocked it, they'd do more than stalking. The police didn't even send anyone out. After speaking with them, I found I had just gotten a new voicemail during the conversation. The moisture in my mouth suddenly gone into my hand. I played it back. "Hey, still waiting on you. If you want to go ahead over to this address, you'd beat us there. Then you'd be the one waiting. Haha. We can catch up there. Good things on the horizon. We're doing great and everyone's happy." That address in the message, I recognized it. I got back on my computer and pulled up my browser history to confirm. It was that company's closest location. The company that number they were calling from was associated with. And what about the other series of digits in the very first message I'd gotten? Now, as I finish typing all this up, I've got a decision to make, and I'm not sure how much time is left to make it. That last message seemed especially threatening, difficult for me to explain. Something in the new emphasis, worse maybe, is that I haven't received a single voicemail since the last one. I don't know what that means. I might be okay until nightfall. Until that, family is less worried, maybe, about being seen. A part of me just wants to go into work, hoping it'll make me forget what's going on here. Maybe I can sleep there, at the office, instead of coming back home. I'm concerned that if I don't go to that location from their last message, they'll do something extreme. But there's something else. Sorry I haven't mentioned it yet. I was trying to get all this down. As I was trying to get all this down, I took breaks to look out the window near my front door. They're out there alright, most of the time, holding hands, mouths moving rapidly. Other times, there's this other thing. Like all that happiness had cast a great big shadow. A tall shape moves occasionally in the trees past the parking lot. Its arms and legs work like slinkies. Its head slings back and forth, like it's trying to free itself from its body. Somehow, I know it isn't very happy at all. Shout out to my superfans, Sweet Black Swan, Tacey, and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I really look forward to making more content for everyone.